Okay, so this video is going to be on Vim one more time. Now, why I have opened this VS Code page is because VS Code has this cool feature of graphical debugging, and even every IDE has this feature. So, what is graphical debugging? So, for example, you are editing a text, okay, and you need to debug your program. So, you don't need to open a terminal, launch the GDB or stuff like that, and then type the program. That means you don't need to learn all those native debugger specific commands. Okay, so you can use for general debugging, of course you can use the graphical debugger. Okay, so it is there that it is inbuilt in the text editor itself, so you don't need to launch it. Okay, so this is very useful feature, and this is the only feature I I think is someone would shift to VS Code. Okay, so we try to replicate this feature inside the Vim, because Vim and neovim are improving. This feature now can be easily replicated. So first we need to install a plugin. So the plugin we need is vimspector. So I am using vimplug, so I enter a code into it. So vimspector is the plugin we use. Vimspector is a graphical debugger that integrates well inside Vim, and it literally provides you all the feature that VS Code debugger provides you. Okay, so this full featured graphical debugger. Okay, and in theory it can support each and every language that VS Code can support. Okay, but of course there are some rough edges. C, C++, these languages are highly tested, like Python, this is also highly tested. The languages that are fully supported like Java and stuff, so there is list, you can go to their page and check it out. Some languages, like new languages like Rust, are experimental. Okay, so those are experimental, but of course in coming times they will be supported as well. Okay, you can play with them. So you need to install this script. Okay, so the next thing you need is this one, some configurations. So what configurations I have is, the first thing I have this human mapping. Okay, so what the human mapping is, there are two type of mapping possible. One is human, and the second one is VS Code mapping. So VS Code mapping, if you get inside that, is a little tough. So this is human mapping, and the VS Code mapping, you can see that this is Shift F5, Control Shift F6, Shift F9, Shift F11. So these are a little tough to have. Instead of that, we have single key press mapping. Okay, so human mapping are easy to have, so I have human mapping. Okay, the second one is leader DD. So if you are coding, you want to launch a debugger, so leader DD is the thing. Okay, now if you are debugging and you get to the code, okay, you found your bug, so leader DX. Okay, so it just does vimspector reset. Leader D is for evaluating an expression. So for example, you have an integer n and you want to get the address of it, so you can just use leader DE. Okay, leader DW is for watching that expression. Okay, so it acts like watcher of the graphical debugger. I did not find any use case of leader DO. I am just using it. I am even not using it. I am never using it, so just ignore it. Okay, the second thing is, for Java I am not using exact vimspector core. I am using the concur of completion core, but and that is why my leader DD is changed for Java. But in the future maybe I would shift to vimspector one. Okay, so this is just a preference. Okay, now but vimspector, I can say the debugger is vimspector only. Okay, so these are the configurations you need to have. The next thing you need to have is some gadgets. Okay, we talk about gadgets. So you need to go inside your vimspector directory. Okay, and there you have install gadget.py that will install the gadgets. So what are gadgets, or I can say adapters? So gadgets are actually this a sort of bridge. I talked about, we have GDB, that have native commands like step to step inside the function, next to get to the next instruction, like that. So they have a specific command, and we have this graphical debugger that works well for each and every debugger. Okay, so it doesn't matter that what language you have, what debugger is inside there, it works well. So there should be a bridge from this graphical debugging to your native language debuggers. So the gadget works as a bridge between those, and what you can do is install gadget. So install gadget.py, and then if you want to enable a language, you can do minus minus enable, for example cpp. So it's for C++. Okay, what I have done is minus minus all. All means download and install every possible bridge. Okay, of course not the optimal, but I do not want to get back to this folder. That's why I just did it. Okay, so these are two things you need to do. Okay, and I have done it already. Okay, so we'll just jump inside the project and try to debug it out. Okay, now if you remember from my last video, I have a simple project named I think so hello. Okay, so it's a basic C++ project, so you need to do some project specific configuration. Okay, so you need to have this .vimspector.json file, okay, in the root of the project, and what it is it has some debugging configurations. So the configurations, like the first one I have is launch. So what are the configurations? It are actually debugging profiles. Okay, so I have only single configuration, that is what I named is launch. Okay, so what launch profile is, it uses the adapter VS Code CPP tools. Adapter is your gadget, and don't worry about VS Code. You don't need to have VS Code. Okay, VS Code CPP tool is the gadget that is needed, and we just installed it using install gadget.py script. Okay, now what configuration this profile has is the first one is request. So it's a launch request. Launch means, for example, you are doing some project and you want to debug it, so it will launch a new instance of that project. Okay, so this is the launch. You can have attach one. So attach one is if you launch a debugger, it will attach to a specific PID, process ID. The second is what program to launch. So debug/main is a program to launch, and it is related to the current working directory that you give to the configuration, and it is hello, this big directory. And the next one is external console. You need, yes, we need external console. And the next one is mi mode, that what debugger you use. So for the C++ project we are using GDB here, because GDB is persistent debugger for C++. So this is the file you need to have. Don't worry about okay, creating this file is an overhead. No, this is not an overhead. You can create it using some scripts, some shell scripts. Personally, I use this project create script. Okay, so you can have some sort of it. So for me, creating it is just like a single line. Okay, I have to just write a single line and it just creates it. Okay, so of course I recommend to have some sort of script like this, because they are very helpful, okay, in long term. Okay, so these are the things you need to have. Let's go. Then let's go and do some next things. Okay, so you can see that I have this key presses on the bottom right. So you may need inside the vim. Okay, so I would get inside the vim and try to do the debugging for this project. Okay, so I would get to main function, and if we go to their page, we can see that these are the key bindings we have. So we will use these key bindings. Okay, so for example, if I need to set this line as a breakpoint, so I need to press F9. F9 sets this line as a breakpoint. That's simple. Okay, now let's get inside this function. Okay, I need to set this line as a breakpoint. So I again press F9. This is how we set the breakpoint. And after pressing F9, we can see in the left there is a little mark, a red mark, and this shows that this line is a breakpoint. Now, if you want to launch the launch the file, you need to do space dd in my case from the configuration. So before launching it, as I told, here we can see that in vimspector file debug/main should be there. So we have debug/main. Okay, so you need to compile it. Okay, so you need to compile it and get this main executable. So for me this was not a problem because I have this inbuilt terminal, okay, the COC terminal, and I just did build debug, and this is how just it does it. Okay, so this project create script always works. I always recommend it. So for me it just automated it, but of course it is not necessary. Okay, so let's get inside it. Okay, so main.cc would just do some breakpoints. Okay, and let's place it as the breakpoint. Okay, so we have two breakpoints, and now let's try to debug the project. So leader dd, and it launched the configuration. Okay, it launched a debugger. So this is the debugger screen, and the next one is the current line that is being executed. So the current line that is being executed is this one. Okay, so how you can recognize it is in the left there is a green arrow. Okay, so this is how you can recognize it, that this line is going to be executed next. What are the other splits? Let's see. So this is script. This split is for the variables we have in the current scope. So this is variable split. This one is watcher split. We will see that, and this one is the stack frame. So currently we have the one stack frame, that's main. Okay, and once we get inside some function, we'll have many one. And this one is basically the debugger screen, and this one is the output one. Okay, so let's get to the next line. For getting to our next line, we need to press F10, and we get inside the next line. Oh, F10. Oh, sorry, I just pressed F11, I think so. Okay, so I just got into the function. Okay, and then we need to have this is the next line that's being executed, and let's see if we see the stack frame. Okay, so now we have this one added entry. So the top one shows this is the current one. Okay, so you can see this is hello print. Okay, now if you want to watch some variable, so you can do simply using leader dw. In my case, for example, I want to watch the value of I. So here it is in the watcher expression, it shows the value of I. I want, for example, I want to evaluate something. So for evaluating, I would press leader de, and I would just press, let's say I want to get the address of n. So here in the command line window, I would get the address of n. So this is how you can do it. So those key bindings help in our graphical debugger. So in this full featured graphical debugger, and in the scope window, you can see all those the global variables, sorry, the local variables that is there in the scope. Okay, now let's get next. Okay, so I would press F5. Okay, for F5 gets you to the next breakpoint, that is the same line, I guess. Okay, so again you get to a next breakpoint, and you can see that these two are shown. So these are the output screen again, and you can see again one more time, and your process executed. So this is how it shows, and always you can see these watch variables are updated as you do some operation on the debugger. So this is how you do the debugging thing in of course vimspector in C++ project. Of course, so there are something different in Java. Okay, so for example, there we can always have this attach profile, something like that. Okay, but this is how it goes on. Okay, so I hope this was helpful, because it gives you a lot of power. Now you don't need to get outside Vim to debug. You don't need to go to VS Code. You need to just throw VS Code inside the trash, because now the debugging came to your Vim. The full featured graphical debugger is here inside the Vim. So I would recommend you to install vimspector plugin if you want to debug inside the Vim. Okay, so hope you guys learned something, and yeah, leader dx to get in to the code mode again. Okay, so hope you guys learned something, and see you guys next